All right, welcome to this week's lecture where I'm happy today that we did a fun we had a fun presentation with Jan Velman last week on the issue of the topic of a revolution in health science. And Jan went through the shifting of paradigms from a particle-based worldview to a wave-based worldview that manifested in a variety of fashions, both in the abiotic physics domain, the biological domain, and specifically the domain of humanity on a variety of levels with its political manifestations, its scientific manifestations, and how we choose to live our lives and see ourselves as either as a bit of both in a sense. We have this wave-like or a particle-like aspect in the sense that we are material beings that live in space and time that can be localized in space and time with a beginning and an end in the sense that there's a time before which we were born and a time after which our bodies will cease to convey our life force, but whether we choose to locate our identity within those bookends or whether we choose to instead locate it within a broader wave of of something much bigger than ourselves is a choice of free will that we all have to make. And how we look at everything else in terms of nutrition, in terms of what goes into health, how do we define it, both in terms of the body, but also in terms of the body politic, humanity, will be different, though we might use the same words, depending on whether we have a particle-based view or a wave-based view of reality. Which one leads in the dance, so to speak, will change everything. So I thought it was very fun and a very lawful thing that as a follow-up, we continue this discussion of health science, and a more refreshing, natural way of thinking about these things from somebody who was also engaged in political action. And I originally met Tish Conlin when she reached out to me, and she's the host of a Canadian-based podcast, Tish Talks, and she wanted to talk about Canadian history a little bit. She had read one of my books on the untold history of Canada, and being somebody who was engaged in taking the role of a citizen seriously and becoming somebody who was running with the People's Party of Canada to do something about a lot of the dictatorial sulfur that we're smelling in the air over the last few years. I was very impressed by her this quality of spark that she was bringing to the conversation and to her reality, to not just accept being whatever an empire throws at you. I was surprised to discover, my mother brought this to my attention, that Tish has also produced a couple of very interesting books. At the time, I only knew of the ABCs of Food, which she had written back in 2015, and I read through the PDF of it and was very impressed by what she's bringing to the table, to the discussion. She's a trained nutritionist as well, so that made a lot of sense. She's experimented a lot. She's traveled around the world as well, which has given Tish a much more international perspective when addressing politics, but also culture and thinking more generally. So the ABCs of Food was a very, very refreshing analysis. And then more recently, her new book, The Thrive Protocol, which integrates a lot of her different experiences into a condensed book, was something that I haven't read yet, but I've listened to her speak about it and I'm impressed by it. And that's why I'm really happy that Tish agreed to take this moment of her birthday to give us a little gift of her experience and ideas. So Tish is going to do this, and like usual, after her main remarks, her main presentation, we're going to open up for Q&A, and like usual, put your name in the chat box. I'll call upon you in queue, or put your little digital hand up. I'll take note of that, and we'll go from there. So Tish, thank you so much. The stage is yours.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Matt. And it's been an incredible connection for me to meet Matt and his wife. And I'm a little behind in some of your podcasts, but often there I'll be listening to it while I do my mountain biking, trying to learn and get all the information. So what a great connection. Thank you. And I've enjoyed our podcast as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit about my journey for everyone. I have, in my first book, I was called, really, I've always been very passionate about food. I guess you could call me a foodie. And eating well. I was a competitive athlete. I was a former gymnast. trained with the national team. One of the funny stories is I really wanted to go to the Olympics so badly. And when I saw Nadia Comaneci in Montreal, I'm like, I've got to be a gymnast. So I used to imagine myself walking in the opening ceremonies with the Olympic team over and over again. And this is one of the things I talk about in my book. It seems a little bit woo-woo, but years later, I got a call as a recruiter from the Olympic team, said, you speak some languages, you've lived overseas, we'd like for you to be part of the contingent. So there I was walking in the opening ceremonies, but I didn't imagine competing, so I never did. I was schlucking along the postcards from the fans, but I had an amazing experience. But yeah, I was called. My late husband suffered from enormous health issues, and I tried to reach him through nutrition. But at that time, we know the power of the medical model, and his doctor was his cousin. He went down a very bad path, which was very sad. I wrote my book trying to get him down a natural path, but he did pass away from rheumatoid arthritis, very too early. I think of him as a guardian angel now, but I started down the path of food and health and stress as a recruiter. I mean, so I wasn't working as a nutritionist. Sadly, nutritionists still in Canada cannot make a living. I used to teach them how to make money. As a corporate recruiter, I started a recruiting firm as a headhunter and could, really grew my business. I had 10 staff at one point, but my passion has always been about helping people live healthier, happier lives. And I think one of the things about my unusual path, having worked in corporate and helped people build, seeing industry being built and providing jobs to build industry, and then seeing that diminishing and more public sector jobs, is it's drawn me to this political path to help solve the medical tyranny. So today, I'd like to start with physical tips. Some things I present in my detox presentations that I've learned not only over the years, but more and more with the COVID era, where a lot of people are waking up to how toxic a lot of these big pharma drugs are, and simple things you can do to improve your health. Because I do believe we're very, very powerful individuals, and we've forgotten to live sovereignly. We've really taken on this slave model. Give me a pill, give me my my welfare, everything. So we in all these areas, but health is wealth. And so it's probably the most important area. So I'm going to cover physical. And then my second book, The Thrive Protocol, really steps into inner resilience. One of the things that when I speak to groups, they don't really care that I'm a holistic nutritionist or written books or anything. But what they do love is that I was the first woman in Canada to get my black belt in a grappling art called shoot wrestling. So it's like jujitsu. So I'm a trained fighter by nature, and I used to compete a little bit in grappling. And that's really the gift that has got me through enormous uphill battle and given me the perseverance and the fortitude in our country on the political front. But those lessons of resilience are very valuable for the times we're living in. And then the beautiful thing I've learned is about our incredible frequency. Now, this is again, the electromagnetism of our own bodies is something that is pretty much scientifically proven now. And even things like electroculture I've been learning about. So it's quite a lot of topics I could dive into, but I'm going to just do a little overview on physical health, then mental, emotional health. I am an emotional intelligence trainer. I used to train in my past life before I was deplatformed and sued just for questioning the pandemic. I used to train people in soft skills mastery, so creative problem solving, all these things on my website, tishconlin.com, and I really enjoyed it. I was good at it. But shifting people out of fixed mindsets into growth mindsets and all that stuff. But a lot of the illnesses we see and a lot of the problems we see in the world are because we're fixed in these belief systems. And you can see it, how people believe things that the media tells them with enough repetition, but how we deprogram ourselves from our own self-limiting beliefs and then how we actually lift out a lot of the negative emotions that we are storing, pushing down, repressing, that are causing physical illness. So what I've learned from my first book, disease is the physical side of disease, and the pollution and the toxic chemicals in our food system and agriculture with things like glyphosate. But then I moved from the Thrive Protocol. This book is really how we can step into full resilience physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, in the spiritual journey that we're all on. And I do give, exercises in the book and quick upgrades everywhere. So the Thrive protocols: tenacity, health, responsibility, imagination, vision, and emotions and energy. So people describe me as huge energy, and I'm not that young, but I still play competitive soccer. I've got lots of energy, and a lot of it is because of the way that I live. And so I'll challenge everyone after this is to do little upgrades, not big ones, like add something positive to your routine and take something away. Like for me, one of the things I added was I do a 15-minute every morning calisthenics. So, knee bends, push-ups, sit-ups, stretches. I use one of my tuning forks that I bought now just as a little sort of energy reinforcement. And I do a prayer. So for me, I do have deep faith, not traditional, but I do believe deeply, in God. And so I, ask for strength and resilience every morning. And it kind of gets me set up. And one of the things I've gotten rid of as a bad habit is my grandma was Scottish, and she came to Canada as a orphan and struggled, had no money. So my dad was raised in the Depression, and that programming of that scarcity was reinforced in his whole life. And, a lot of people know that from their parents or anyone who grew up during the war. And so I still have that waste not, want not in me. So sometimes I'm like eating crap food that just because my kids didn't eat it. And I've checked that recently. I'm like, you know what? I'm not eating that just because it's going to get wasted. So there's just little things you can focus on. When it comes to overall health and supplements, I mean, a lot of you are very educated people. I've listened into a few other lectures, so growing your own is easy. Sprouts are one of the most nutrient dense foods. If you can buy sprouts, and you don't have to worry if there's issues. Rice and sprouts will get you through sunshine, getting outside, laughing. Clean water is the most important. I interviewed Dr. Robert O'Young on my podcast. He's got some controversial views, but he's very intelligent. He wrote The pH Miracle. And getting alkaline water, I think, is one of the most important things you could invest in. Kangen water or alkaline systems or whole house systems. If you can't, make sure your water's delivered, because there is a high level of toxicity in the water. I mean, that's kind of, that's the number one thing. Who here, show of hands or whatever, put your digital hand up, has a alternative water system? Yeah. Matthew, come on. Yeah,
I
come on.
I, I buy I buy bottled water. No, I know.
Oh,
I
come
know.
on. Yeah, well, okay. Yes, there's something on your list, right? Christmas list for your wife. Anyways, water is so critical. I mean, there are people saying there's, crap in the bottled water. Whether you don't have to believe it or not, but still, I think it's a worthwhile investment. I can't prove certain things, but I can see the outcomes, right? So when it comes to your physical health, the most important thing is you don't have to be a vegan or a vegetarian or just meat alone, but I think it's clean food, clean eating. I mean, I eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian, but I do eat a lot of vegetables, and having a variety of foods that you can easily grow some of them yourself. In my little tiny backyard, I tried electroculture this summer. Does anyone know what electroculture is? Does everyone? Yeah. Just what, like a simple rod, copper, just in the shapes that they've recommended. And I just got so much and it was so easy. You'd hardly have to do anything. So it's not that hard to grow your own food. But the trick is getting in the habits of eating well and then detoxifying, because there is a lot of environmental toxins, in the air, soil, and water. Glyphosate in Canada, they are spraying our wheat and soy, just the crap out of it. If you go to Europe, there's hardly any gluten intolerance because they're much better regulated. But here in Canada, it's horrific. So I don't personally eat the wheat because I find it, and I buy wheat from Europe or else organic wheat. But some of the tips, does everyone here know about MMS or chlorine dioxide? It's good to have on hand, very low cost. No one can recommend it in Canada. You could go to prison in some other places for even mentioning it, but it's good to have these things in your house. Things like colloidal silver, these things are good to have in your home. And we are in crazy times where almost anything seems like it could happen. So what I recommend for health in your home that's say you don't want to go to the hospital. I really don't want to ever go to the hospital. It just right now in Canada, not only are the wait times so long and the doctors have been so indoctrinated, they really don't have a broad education. That's been by design, as we know, with the Rockefeller system, but they just aren't, they just really don't seem to get anything but prescriptions. So things like, I really like DMSO as well. Does that a great detoxifier wound ointment, not very expensive. Amanda Vollmer, who's a naturopathic doctor here in Canada and quite vocal on the freedom side. She's got some great products on her website. Black cumin oil, great to gargle, antibacterial. Even liquid NaC, I really recommend everyone have an infuser. Even like steam in the winter helps with bronchial infections, and it's very, very good to have this stuff. A simple liver detox is half of a lemon squeezed in water. I'll actually just bring up my detox cheat sheet. I can send it to Matt afterwards. So let me just share can everyone see that? So here's something so I started presenting once. So what happened to me is during COVID, I guess 2020, my cousin died suddenly. So for the first, he was a nurse in Flint, Michigan. And so I started off actually quite scared of COVID for about a month because he died and he was only in his 50s. But I realized now he was murdered by the protocols with remdesivir and a ventilator. He probably would have been fine if he'd never gone to work. But very sad, but I was scared for a while. Then I started to see through the deception. And then I got really scared about the shots because I did my own research and listened to Dr. Simone Gold and others. And I always followed Dr. Mercola. So I started speaking out about what was happening and lost really all my friends. Two of them have come back, very joyful to me because I've always had lifelong friendships. I was canceled off LinkedIn, lost 25,000 followers. I was deplatformed off YouTube. And then my partner at the time I'd re-met, he left me. He said, I'll probably be murdered or ruined for speaking out. So it was very traumatic for me, a really horrific time, 21. But I didn't stop, and that's my resilience. I still ran the federal election. I think that's just the way I'm built. My late husband called me indefatigable. I realized, I guess, when I see it, I am. But I started doing these Thrive workshops. I launched my podcast. This is a picture of what Dr. Robert O. Young calls a trans parasite that are in things sort of made from carbon and aluminum. So some people say that's not real, and some people think it is. So I'm not going to debate that, but that's a picture he got from his microscope. So once I started doing detox workshops with all the freedom groups, it just, people just wanted more and more. So I started learning more. So here's some of the things from a detox. Heavy metals. We're all full of heavy metals. So things like even cilantro is very powerful. I buy the drops, but it helps to bind with the heavy metals and pull them out of, things like they collect in your brain and everywhere else. So grapefruit peel, activated charcoal. I do not recommend people take activated charcoal daily. Some people are, it's very, very hard in the system, but once in a while, I do take cilantro on a regular basis. And also grapefruits themselves are so good for clotting and heart conditions. They don't want you to know that. And I do take boron regularly. There is a transhumanism agenda, and there's a reason why boron is deficient from agriculture, because it does kind of all of those metals in us. It helps to pull them out. And I do believe in even C60 is a great detoxifier, as well as sauna, fasting, and an alkaline diet. And I think fasting is so good, even if you've been conned into taking the shot. A 72-hour fast is very, very helpful. So we don't need as much. So some of the things with, radiation, iodine, I'm a big fan of iodine, and I do have a, like nanotech, if you believe in that, there is a bath that you could do that helps to lift stuff, all these metals out of your body, with boron, borax, baking soda, and Epsom salt. When it comes to things like parasites, yeah, it's one of these gross topics, but there is that can really drain your energy. Dr. Lee Merritt has been doing a ongoing parasite cleanse. Everyone knows of ivermectin now, and fenbendazole is gaining awareness generally for parasites, but also it's been known to cure cancers, turbo cancers. So you can do your own research. Fenbendazole, as a Canadian, you can still buy quite freely right now. So yeah, I mean, one of the easiest, and one of the things Dr. Robert O. Young talks about, and I highly recommend everybody should have this in their cabinet, is baking soda. That should be not powder soda, but without the aluminum. So Bob's Red Mill is so good. As well as chlorella, or the green grasses. You drink that and you are in a good spot. So other great things to have are hydrogen peroxide, can be used in a diffuser. I really like for lungs, and is pine needle, essential oils, frankincense, myrrh, is very, very good. So, I did go down the path of investigating Rife technology, and it'd be something for Matthew to look into, because Dr. Rife, historically, the evidence was there. He saw that everything oscillates differently, goes back to pure physics. And that goes for toxins and, pathogens as well. And he was able, with a high microscope back in, 1920s, to see if you put the opposite frequency, kind of like, how you can shatter a glass certain pitch, then you destroyed the pathogen. And he actually did it. He took, I don't know how many cancer patients that were sort of like terminal, stage 4, and he cured them with Rife technology. There is I'll just grab it, a textbook, and it's very well. I don't know if you guys can see how fat this is. It's huge.
Tish, whenever you show a book, I think the way that Zoom will allow it to be pictured is if you put it right in front of your body and don't move
Oh,
it, then it kind of will tend to allow it. But otherwise, if
oh,
you move it even a little bit, it will pretend it doesn't exist.
oh,
So now
thank
people
you.
can see it. Yep, there it is. There you are.
Huge. Like, I don't know how many thousands. These are all case studies on everything.
Huh.
So I had a friend who, once I was going down this path, I kind of lost my business, lost my everything, and I was still trying to help people, who were gathering through the freedom, people who were awake to the sort of what was happening. So I came across the Rife technology and was using it. And I had quite a few people come to my clinic. So I had my little home-based clinic with my Rife machine, my own little infrared sauna. And I'd start with the physical. I'm very familiar with all that stuff, food. And then I started moving into my other area, which is emotional detox. But the Rife technology is interesting as well. I mean, I also certified, well, I am like a learner. So I did a few online certifications for Reiki, just learning about, the incredible energy force when you set your intention. There is a physical energy behind everything, behind your thoughts, your emotions. They have an energetic charge. And so, there's nothing unscientific about sending good intentions to someone. It's like the power of prayer or laying on hands. It's like all these miracles. So Reiki does follow from a very spiritual side how you can, help others. So anyways, this is a list. I won't go over all of them, but some of them I do take a fair number of supplements because there's a lot of deficiencies, but mostly I rely on, decent food. We know cruciferous vegetables, like cauliflower are very good for detox. We need chlorophyll-rich foods. I take liquid chlorella. You may or may not know that lemons, grapefruits, and avocados are actually alkaline in their charge, so they're very, very good for you. I have a freeze dryer, and so I've freeze dried a number of them and put them in Mylar bags so they last a long time. And there's things like bitter apricots people can now buy, which are very good for combating parasites and cancer. And then really just getting into using a lot of herbs and spices is very good. Mullein tea is something I don't go without now because a lot of people have chronic coughs because of all of the stuff in us, and that's incredibly good for that. And I do recommend, although this is something for me only, chlorine dioxide is just good to have. If you're interested in that, you can watch the documentary, The Universal Antidote. So those are some of the things that can help you physically, brain health, of course, omega fatty acids, and avoiding all of those processed seed oils. And then getting rid of parasites naturally without, if you don't want to go through big, pharma, things like sunflower seeds, coconuts, onions, black walnut, papaya seeds, garlic, turmeric, and all of that stuff. So here's a recipe for a flu shot the only type I would take is 6 lemons, 1 to 2 garlic bulbs, ginger, cinnamon, cayenne, little honey, natural, and pineapple juice. That'll help you feel better if you're getting down. And then here's that detox bath. I mean, I might only do it once a month if I think of it. But Epsom salts, baking soda, borax, and bentonite clay. So these are just a couple of my podcasts. You can check out Tish Talk if you're interested. I do have a wide range of incredible guests like Matthew on history, and then people on health. Had a guy on EMR, the radiation from EMF, and again, good opinions on everything. So that's really the physical side. Catch you up to my book, The ABCs of Food. Boost your energy, confidence, and success. My journey as an athlete and as a person watching my husband and he was a genius. He had a genius IQ, incredible singing voice, and he just turned into a shadow of himself and then died before he was 51. It's a very sad story. So, but after that, the second book, so this is the next thing, as I really started stepping into the spiritual side of our health. As not everyone has this opportunity, and I personally consider it a gift that you have like literally everything taken from you. You have your love, my passion, my work, my friends, my partner. So it was like I don't know what to do now. So I just totally reinvented myself. And I explored a lot of these topics. I felt like a student. It's been really quite an incredible time the last few years, and I don't regret any of it. And I don't know why I've been so powerfully called politically, but I have. And, I must have talked to maybe 10,000 people in the last few years, door to door. I realized the censorship in Canada, particularly for PBC, so severe that I wasn't going to get anywhere. I could barely gain traction. So I just went door to door. I made it a habit, like I do things. And the stories I've heard in the last few years have been incredible, but it's also reinforced what I've been learning about how we can step in and improve things. A lot of people give up too soon, is what I've learned. So there's this apathy that I can't make a difference, why bother? And I mean, but now we're starting to see when people get activated, a lot of things can change. I presented at 4 council meetings, and they said, "Oh, people don't never come out." Now we know that by design they keep us busy and distracted and entertained. But if we actually paid attention and stepped into responsibility, we could change a lot. In my riding, Durham, I think they're afraid of me because the MP stepped down. He resigned. The MPP resigned, and the mayor resigned. And we presented to 4 councils, and I'm going to be presenting again in December 18th again on inappropriate spending. So this is to kind of educate us. We have to reclaim our sovereignty, and really can change the world then. If we, as Matthew has taught me in some of our podcasts, if we can step into the mandate from heaven, right, in our own lives, doing good, whatever we're called to do, to change the world, I think we can make incredible transformations. So I started researching not just courage, because that's really the starting point for action. A lot of people, and I do recommend a book, Dr. Robert Hawking's. Oh, it's in my other room. If anyone wants to see it, I'll run and get it. But it's Letting Go. What I've seen so much about how people are programmed and their the way that they are, it's kind of like to be more woo-woo, they resonate these lower frequencies. So I can tell now, you meet someone and they're always angry, or they're always afraid, or they're living in their ego, and they're just kind of handicapped with their own pride. So what Robert Hawkins talked about, and he's really beautiful, is how you let go of a lot of these negative lower level energies, and then you can step into these higher frequencies emotionally, and that helps you to live a better life. So as an example, and he has a whole list. Let me see if I can find it in my book here. I'll see if I can read them, but it is a good book. I talk about it as well, because I can tell when we're spending our whole life, because we had our parents did this to us when we're a kid, and because you hold on to that grudge, you might be angry for weeks, months, years of your life go by, and you haven't let that go. So the negative emotions, according to his scale, Dr. Robert O. Young, are shame is the worst. And that's why they want you to be ashamed of yourself and all that. They push that on you through the media. Then guilt, then grief, fear, anger, pride. Those are all the negative emotions. And the turning point is when you have the courage to not only face yourself, face your emotions, but also face the bullshit in the world. There's an inner and an outer. And I think you have to be balanced and whole. You need to tackle both in your life. You can't just say, oh, this is happening in the freedom movement. There's all these people who are like, oh, we don't do anything. It'll all be taken care of. And I always challenge those people as well. Like, love is a verb. You need to co-create a better future. But courage is the turning point, then acceptance, reason, love, joy, and peace. But it sounds like, well, but we have a range of emotions, and it's beautiful, but you don't want to get stuck your whole life living in anger or blame, or all of these emotions that a lot of people are stuck in. And still, there's a lot of people stuck in fear. You see that when they're still wearing masks in the grocery store and things like that. But but our emotions are really drivers of our life. And I think you can't ignore your emotions. And a lot of people say, I'm not really into that. I'm an intellectual, I'm a reason based. Everybody has emotions, and they're like messengers. They're designed to inform us. And they are a connection between our conscious and subconscious brain. And we need to pay attention to and honor our emotions. If you don't, they knock louder and louder, cause more trouble in your life. And even people like Louise Hayes, here has heard of a Louise Hayes? Yeah, she was able to decades ago see correspondence between an emotion and a physical illness manifestation. And I'm very intuitive and self-aware, so I can see when my body's out of sync. Right now, I'm nursing plantar fasciitis, and there's no reason for me to have that, but I know I have a little fear about stepping into my future politically. Not only is it, there's so much slandering, people are so mean to political people, but then my children are still teenagers. So that's the conflict I have, even though I really, really want to do this. So I think it's just a manifesting in my foot. But let's just go through now building a resilient life. Who here has ever done a mission statement or feels they have like a strong purpose in their life? Anybody? So, okay, that's great. I mean, I used to do facilitated workshops. My business, Global Consulting Group, is a talent solutions firm, and I love doing facilitated workshops. And when I was doing them over and over with all these people, I always had mine was very simple. I want to help people live healthier, happier lives. And that included not only their physical health, but their jobs, because I realized how much meaning are in jobs. My dad was a very, very intelligent and respected mechanical engineer building, nuclear power plants and all these power plants, and just talked incessantly about it. But I mean, I learned from him, we all need these meaningful jobs, and all of these things have been stripped away from us. So there's this whole thing. But that was the one, because I was so rooted in my mission. When the COVID adventure came along, I couldn't stay silent because it went against my own personal mission statement. So it's a good exercise to do, like just for yourself, like instead of staying in your head, write down, it can change. What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be? What am I called to do right now? What's your why in everything you do that'll get you through the hardships that we, are facing now and will be while this keeps unfolding. And, we have, growing homelessness, the drug addiction, all sorts of highest suicide rates in Canada for our youth. Kids can't afford rent now. And then you could step into solutions as well, because you don't want to get stuck in the fear state. So that's how courage is a bridge between like, oh, it's so scary, I'm not sure what to do. And then you're in that anxiety panic loop into courage. Well, you know what? I can make a difference. What am I going to do to help out? And then, whatever you're called to do, that helps you to really, do well in the world and find kind of your own specific mission. Because I believe everybody is important. Everybody is valuable. Everyone's got something really important to contribute to our better future. And we know it's pretty bad, but there's lots of changes going on. I mean, I interviewed Jim Gale in Food Forest Abundance on my podcast as well. He's out of Florida, and it's incredible what you could do with natural, like to build like these thriving ecosystems. And this is not going to take us long. It's very interesting. So this is the thing on, physical health is critical, but, even more so is your emotional health. I believe your thoughts come from your emotions. It's not the opposite. So you're in an emotional state, then the thoughts come along with that. So if you can change your emotions, you can change your thinking and your actions. And I'm just forgetting the name of Joe Dispenza talks about your personality is really just your personal reality, which is your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. So that's really easy to change. That's why he was proving with his many workshops. I don't know if anyone has read his books, but people do these mind movies. And I'll talk about this next in the vision and energy section, but the mind movies are unbelievable how many people they come true. So you get in this brain heart coherence where you're imagining what you want, and then you are really trying to get that resonance where you believe it, get into your belief systems, and then you're doing the actions to get there. And a lot of these people, a huge number of them, achieve what they want, even though it seemed impossible at the time. So I do encourage people to add to their day visualization. Like, why not? We're being programmed by, the apocalyptic death cult to think it's all, destruction and AI drones killing us ahead. I don't buy that. I reject that completely. So why don't we do a little bit to reinforce what we want to be the future instead? And that's a great exercise to do every day, because you don't realize how much you're being programmed for the dark. So program yourself to the best possible outcome. I do that with groups a lot because they're scared about like 15-minute cities, or forced jabs, or the WHO takeover, or any number of things, or a big World War III nuclear apocalypse. I mean, all these things are out there. And they can really get us in a fearful, and then you get paralyzed and you do nothing, and you might just eat junk food that day, or ice cream, because you're so stressed out. So nourish your mind as well with an alternative, better reality, without living in a fantasy. So it's a fine line when it comes to resilience. I studied this, and it was proven in World War II. The prisoners who survived were not the ones who were like, hey, it's going to be great, they're going to come and rescue us. They lost hope, and a lot of them perished, sadly. The people who survived, and this is sort of the way I've always lived in difficult times, were optimizing reality. So they're like, gee, it's pretty darn bad, we might not make it, but we want to make it. So who's going to be on the bug patrol for extra protein? Who's going to be getting ways to communicate so we don't die of loneliness? All of these things. So upgrading a bad situation, always trying to improve it. And finding the meaning in the meaning and the significance of the experience as well. That's very important, is finding greater meaning. And I know Viktor Frankl, that's a wonderful book. Probably a lot of you have read. I'm sure Matthew's read it as well. Man's Search for Meaning. So, I mean, the thing is that we are in a significant influx in time, which I find fascinating. You must, as a historian, Matthew, find it very interesting as well. So I think it's a great adventure. That's the way I look at everything. I mean, it is my intention to win the upcoming by-election and make history in Canada. So that's a big thing I've set myself up to do, and then create some change in Ottawa, even through the symbolism of one seat, because to build an integrated medical model. So this is an idea. Imagine a world where instead of public healthcare, where you go and you never get service, or they only prescribe a pill or something awful, is you have a fully integrated system. Maybe you get money that you could put towards a naturopath or an energy healer, whatever, or allopathic doctor, or you have doctors incentivized by how well they keep their patients. I mean, moving the paradigm. We have to get into creative thinking now, doing things outside the box differently than we used to. Who was it, Einstein say, if you keep doing what you did, you'll always get what you got. So we have to learn to reinvent everything. So it does start with ourselves. If you're not healthy, you just don't have the energy to make a difference. And if you become jaded, you can't lose that belief that you can make a difference as one person as well. And I mean, I think that's really important. So to sustain yourself, you need to nourish a positive vision, not only for yourself, but for everyone in the future. I was very honored. I was asked to speak and participate in a world envisioning prayer. And we're just going to see if I have my prayer. I could find it. I could read it. I didn't, but with Dr. Lee Merritt, Dr. Christine Northrup, and a lot of the big US podcasters, and Colonel Bosey in Australia. So it was really powerful to listen to everyone, imagining a world without all of these deep state pillars and psychopaths running the show. And it is really very possible. So, if in terms of our frequency and all this, those are some really good books. I do talk about it, a lot in my book, but we're really electromagnetic beings, and our heart actually has more neurotransmitters than our brain. I don't believe that. So we really do think with our heart, and sometimes our head is greatly misguided, is the experience I've had, because we have all of our ego stuff in our head. We cannot listen to our heart, and one of the important things that's really, really been apparent to me in the last years is we must listen to our heart's guidance and integrate that with our thinking. When you have you live well, you're living healthy, you're doing your best, you're making mistakes, but you're owning them. That's the responsibility piece. None of us are perfect. Some days we're irritable or edgy, or we might say something we regret. And that's part of being human. And I think one of the problems is people are even people who say they're awake, we are so big on canceling someone over the least thing. And that's a symptom of a gross loss of trust. It's hard to trust anybody now when we realize what has been done deliberately to us. And so I do believe that it's going to take some time to rebuild trust collectively, but you can be the person that, offers that bridge, offers that forgiveness, holds people accountable. Like everyone during this COVID thing needs to be held accountable. All the politicians, everyone, but there are people who unknowingly did some things. So this is a kind of a territory we're stepping into now, where we're all going to be learning and growing as human beings, and that's why it is painful. It's painful time. A lot of strange and unusual things are happening, but during that too, I think we will have great miracles occurring. So yeah, just to sort of sum up, and I could take questions, is, all of us have had huge traumas in our lives, and we have an opportunity to release those and live more fully, because these traumas that we are holding on to, whether they're big or small, they affect our energy and our lives in every way, our decisions, our choices, everything. So the full, complete, healthy person on a daily basis is self-aware. You really need to be aware of your strengths and weaknesses, and we all have areas to grow, but is playfully playful with themselves, is not so hard on themselves, has a like a healthy self-love and self-nurturing. So you're kind to yourself without you're not a narcissist. You love yourself, and then you can love others and forgive them. You step into courage, you take care of yourself with good food. When you're down, or something doesn't go, you try to release that as quickly as possible, and, step into things you enjoy doing and make a difference through good habits for community outreach, or doing whatever you're called to do, helping others. And then, set your goals high. Like, aim for something that you would never have imagined before, because chances are you'll get there. Absolutely. So that really covers sort of an essence in just under an hour. I didn't know, I just kind of went at it. I could talk but does anyone, I mean, as an exercise, does anyone have something to say about what has worked for them, or an experience they've had, good or bad, and how they've handled it, to kind of regain their equilibrium?
I see that Thomas seems to want to. Thomas, are you raising your hand, or are you? No, you're communicating with
Uh,
somebody else.
yeah, well, it was
Oh,
about my first question and about Tish's just general philosophy and helping. Um, I've been an athlete too all my life, and that's been sort of helping me stay sane, especially this time, last few years. But specifically, my first question was about if she has anything for some of the a natural treatment, like for Lyme disease or post Lyme disease.
well, but rather than get into the particulars, did you have a thought about, or a thought in response to her question regarding a change in your own attitude regarding life more generally, or did you? Because I think that that's what Kish
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of poke us
Um,
with, is a little bit something a
yeah,
little bit more subjective as far as our own experiences are
no,
concerned.
it started in my early 20s, just dedication to fitness and athleticism and cycling and sports, with which helped me deal with some personal traumas, those personal things in life. And
Yeah.
I've been at it since. And I was seriously into politics and history. Tish, you don't know me. Some of these other people do, but I immigrated to Canada in 1968 from Czechoslovakia at the time, and that's what got me started into politics and history. I went on to get a history and politics degree, and
Wow.
um, but then I moved to the Czech Republic in 1993, just shortly after the separation of the Federal Republic.
I
And
was in your country when it was all together. I went as I was an Ausland student in university in Germany in Dusseldorf, and we went to Prague during the when it was communist Czechoslovakia. It was absolutely stunning there, and we could eat like this huge delicious dinner. It was like $5. I'll never forget being there, but it's a unbelievable with the armed guards on the bus and everything.
yeah, that of course is all gone. I now live in the on the border with Bavaria, the Sudetenland, the historic
Oh yeah.
Sudetenland. This right next to town, the destroyed villages begin,
Wow.
and going up to the borders. Like
Hmm.
it's all woods and forested areas
Hmm.
now, and there's remnants of the villages. Just a monument to World War I dead, and then a few
Hmm.
foundations. This is more where I live
Well,
now.
to answer your question about Lyme, it's a good question, and I really believe that Rife is got incredible results. So again, if you look into the Rife technology of curing Lyme very
Right.
quickly, there are other supplements, but I know a lady suffered it. I used to go to the gym, and I stopped that as well. It's like a whole new world. It's hard to go back once they've implemented, like, you have to have a passport. So now I have a little basement gym and I work out in nature, but she had horrible Lyme disease. And when I read the results for the Rife machine, it's quite something. But I believe we can overcome Lyme through even chlorine dioxide, MMS protocol as well. And again, I'm not legally allowed to recommend it, but it's something to look into, and fasting. A lot of these things that are such a burden and are harming people so much can be cured. This is the exciting part of waking up as well. As you see, we are so powerful. They've been inundating us with all these toxins and jabs, and we're still quite strong. And I'm not to say there could be in the future great breakthroughs for within the traditional medical sector, but when you must partner with the natural, incredible natural remedies as well. So, but yeah, it's good to use fitness. It's a great way to to keep ourselves emotionally balanced. And when, a lot of people, when you go through a difficult thing, exercise, it's a natural detoxer because it's physically sweating. So it also, in a way, you're working through the emotional pain through exercise as well. So
Have you
yeah.
heard of Dr. Cowan's Nutrimetics
Yes.
program?
Mm-hmm.
I used that for about 3 years. It seemed to be working slowly. Then I stopped,
Mm-hmm.
and within 3 months, suddenly I had the symptoms. It's difficult to tell. I used to race mountain bikes. I still race mountain bikes.
I'm a
That's
mountain
how
biker too. Yeah.
I know. I heard that. And I suddenly felt that same weakness. Ran and got tested. Ran back to the doctor, and underwent conventional antibiotic intravenous
Oh,
treatment. This time around, it seemed to work.
okay.
It,
There you
it's
go.
so
Yeah.
it, but no, it was the combination of
Yeah.
using the Nutrimetics products.
Mm-hmm.
Went off of it. I'm sure it suppressed or killed a lot of the bacteria, and then it came flooding back, right? And we caught it in time, and I was able to kill it, I think, with conventional antibiotics, and I've been free of it since, I think.
Good.
But then I had a spat of
Excellent.
exercise-induced asthma.
Mm-hmm.
That's an
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually thanks to the Lyme disease, and having read that the CDC also did not want to acknowledge it, right? It's sort of another fraud, another hidden epidemic, that it was easy for me to believe, or that I doubted the whole COVID
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Good for you. Oh,
And
excellent. Well, it's
Yeah.
a good story. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we have a. I'm so sorry, Thomas.
go
I
ahead.
just know
Yeah,
that there's a list of people who
sorry.
want to
Go
ask a
ahead. Yeah.
question too. But did you want to punctuate that with anything, or that are you happy with the response you're given?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at that Rife as well.
Great.
You know, okay, thanks.
Okay. I think for myself as well. Like I've always been somebody who I know that I struggle with being too much of a head person, and in coming in just retrospect a little bit to my dissonance in life, realizing that there's a much more distorted reality behind the popular narratives, and how I grappled with that over the course of a few phases in my life. Um, in some ways, I'm happy that I made the choices that I did to not run away from certain discoveries that I could have. It's a scary thing to sort of accept that most people are living in a shadowland that's been created with artificial mythologies with a very bad intention. Your loved ones,
Yes.
I mean, this is painful stuff. So everybody who, to varying degrees, has suffered a certain amount of trauma by virtue
Yes.
of having made that shift, whether you did it in the course of 9/11 or earlier under real looking into JFK, what was behind that, or more recently with certain medical emergencies thrown onto us. Whatever the case may be, there's certain trauma. I know I have often gotten a little bit too much into trying to piece things together and um, not still holding a lot of the bad personal habits of eating.
I
Um,
was gonna say, yes, that's
yeah,
like an emotional way of escaping from that.
it's sort of a therapy, right? Like it's almost
Yeah.
like I'd rather just have the donut.
Or wait, the Oreos I heard you like.
I actually dropped them earlier yeah,
Okay.
cookies are a big one for me. So all that to say,
That's
uh,
okay. That's okay.
but
Yeah.
there's this whole introspective science that integrates an emotional health, a nutritional health
Yes.
that I've often overlooked, and I'm trying to get better at this now. So I appreciate the integration aspect of things very much so, and I'm going to be picking up the book. One question I had off the top of my mind before I go to Monty then Kelly is um, it's a little bit daunting. Like all of these various vitamin regimens. I just got sick. My mother put together a whole regiment
Mhm.
for a few weeks of different vitamins that work together pretty well. She's got a bit of an apothecary inside of her that's coming out more and more in
Mhm.
recent months or a couple of years. And it's really great, but I find it very daunting. Like, how do you balance
Oh,
how much zinc to take? When do you take the boron? At what point
yeah.
does it become almost harmful maybe to have too much of one thing or too
Y-
over a sustained period, or how it interacts with other vitamins that may not work together? Like
Great question.
where does
Yeah.
stand, like how do you navigate through that? It's tough.
That's a great question, Matt, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I usually bring it up in groups because not only is it overwhelming, so I'm a simplifier. I like to simplify everything, and I do love puzzles. So I could sit down, I could go in like an Olympics for puzzles because once I see pieces, that's why I like this puzzle of our country, putting it back together. It's so interesting. People say, why don't you just like go into a detox clinic? No, I'm called for something. I like the big picture, but at the same time, a simplifier. When it comes to vitamins, remember, minerals are calming, so you take them at night. And vitamins are energizing, you take them in the morning. All I give my kids, and if you take nothing else, I think everyone should take magnesium. Magnesium, and a good quality one. I can run and get my brand. I don't sell vitamins, but CanPrev, I think, magnesium biglycinate, and you take them at night because it's important for over 200 biochemical functions alone and is a huge detoxifier. Most people are magnesium deficient. Keeps you calm, helps you get a better sleep, helps your brain, everything else. And we also live in, if most of you are Canadian, maybe not all of you, but for those who are, which, in the winter, we need vitamin D. So, and a high quality vitamin D, a high quality magnesium, and I give this is what I give to my kids, and a fish oil. We really need it for our brain. Our brains are over 66% omega-3 fatty acids. Most of us don't eat enough or get enough in our diet. We're being bombarded with these processed seed oils, these omega-6 seed oils, to deliberately destroy our brain function. Now, we have to understand they're trying to kill us and dumb us down. I mean, you have to face the hard facts. That's kind of like we're prisoners. We're optimizing the reality. You have to face reality. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. So then you have strategies to overcome it. So I highly recommend high quality fish oil, and then vitamin C as well, because it's really protective. I take a number of things. I take turmeric every night. So I don't take anything in the morning. Sometimes I don't take a vitamin every day because I do eat well, but you could get a multivitamin, take it once in a while. You really mostly need minerals. So I take at night magnesium, fish oil, I take zinc, boron, I take a bone formula. I'm petite, and I don't, so I take a bone formula. I take an adaptogen for stress because it's extremely high pressure, this campaign of mine. So you could take something like holy basil that helps your stress response, or something like ashwagandha. That's a little bit out there. You don't need that. You really need the minerals, the fish oil, and the vitamin D. Some people like a probiotic, but I think these things are more important, along with the water. Matt, you guys got to get an alkaline water system, but that's all you really need. I'd say as a male too, zinc, magnesium, fish oil, vitamin D, probiotic. If you have digestive issues, I don't recommend eating too much wheat. Our Canadian wheat, the regulations are awful for spraying it with glyphosate, so it's quite toxic. I don't eat wheat by choice unless it's organic, or I buy flour from Europe. So I eat gluten-free. So those are some of the main things. And then just a decent diet. I do buy my meat from the butcher. I don't trust the meat in the supermarket anymore right now. I don't know if they're being injected with mRNA vaccines, or if that could be like fake news. But either way, I like to support the farmers. We know we need food supply is under threat with Agenda 2030. So wherever you can support your farmers. I also buy my vegetables. I community support agriculture where I live. There's a farmer I meet every 2 weeks. But if that's helpful, Matt, you can have a simple protocol. I will email you my cheat sheet. for people, sort of what I take. I really like chlorella and turmeric because they're just so loaded. And I get a few extras, like I'm a bit of a supplement junkie, but I take NAD because I did read Longevity. Now, the scientist who wrote that book is big vaccine pusher, but still his science on chromosome longevity is very sound. And apparently it helps your telomeres from fraying, keeps you, boosts your longevity and just keeps you healthy. Like, look at me. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I feel like I'm aging nicely, slowly. And I'm like, every year I'm like, yep, still playing soccer, still doing all this stuff. But yeah, I like NAD. So NAD, that's my little extra.
Interesting. Thank you. And are you okay if I make your cheat sheet available,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
as a download for people who want to access it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So that'll be there with a link to your books as well in the video when it goes up online in the description box for anybody listening online who wants this.
Perfect.
All right. Keep that in mind. So let's go to Monty. And thank you, by the way. Monty, go for it.
Yes, Tish, greetings from Baja, Mexico, and thank you, Matt, for this follow-up. Truly, it follows up very well with the presentation by Jan Willman last week, professor of optical biophysics, particles to waves. And this is a bit of a strange mystical experience I'm having in relationship to them. Back at last week, I posed the question whether, because I'm having an intolerance to alcohol. And I've been going to a hands-on massage therapist, and a guy who works with the chakras. And I posed a question last week whether he was aware of whether there's any measurement of this to be able to measure the electronic fields of the chakras, because it seems like that's the means by which we're really connected to the universe. And lo and behold, today I received a correspondence from Alex Craner, who I'm sure you're familiar with. And his paper is entitled Alcohol and Humanity's Evolution. And it's subtitled, The World is Full of Magic Things Waiting for Our Senses to Grow Sharper. And in that, he made reference to Valerie Hunt, which answered my question, which wasn't answered last week. But Valerie Hunt is a professor of kinesiology at UCLA. And she's able to measure through electromyographs energy fields from the chakras.
Mm-hmm.
And she says it's the frequency she's able to measure it has to do with our abilities insofar as mysticism, neurogenesis, synchronicity, and telepathy. And Alex gave this similar experience he's having. Now, Alex Craner is a financial guru, an economics guru, the last person I would really expect to be talking about mysticism, telepathy, synchronicity, and so forth associated with the chakras and the impact that, because Valerie Hunt says that she won't even allow somebody with alcohol to be in her lab during experiments.
Oh, so it impedes your sort of your spiritual,
So
psycho-spiritual
able to
development.
not
Yeah.
only measure these chakras energies now and their association, but they're able to link this up with our telepathic abilities as far as our regeneration system. And so if
Yeah.
you could comment on that, if you had any experience, but it's fascinating to me because this is the experience I'm having, and so far as
Yeah,
my alcohol, what's happening with it.
that's really interesting. It could be your body is now rejecting it. I have tried, like you noticed during COVID, all the fitness centers were closed, but the alcohol stores were open. That's been deliberate. All this stuff. I do enjoy red wine and scotch. I have to confess, full confession here, but I try to keep it in, moderate because I noticed once you start getting in these habits, like I used to, when I first lost everything, and I hadn't found anyone, it was scary and very lonely and sad times. I had a lot of grief. I was very happy with my guy, and he really let me down. It was a big betrayal. So I would, because he was like, I love you, I love you. And, whoa, we're gonna have the best life. We were farming, and then bang, I say I'm gonna step up and be politically active, and he's like, you're out, bang. So I did get the drink, I'd have a drink of wine, even being as healthy as I had the habit of every day. And I realized very quickly how harmful that was. So I had to just process the emotion instead, which, facing the sad, the hurt, the betrayal. And I'm able to lift that out of my body and out of my chakras. And, now I drink a little bit, hardly here or there. But yeah, when we don't process our emotions is when we turn to these crutches, and however you want to describe it, it affects our actual magnetism, our electromagnetic frequencies. It affects our health, whatever it is, our vitality, whatever word you want to use. I've read about how they can measure these things. So it's so important, again, going back to our emotions, to process them, no matter how painful they are, because if you don't deal with them, they sit there and accumulate, and they do affect your life force. So yeah, I think that there is something very negative about alcohol. And a lot of people use it as a crutch so they don't face their emotions. And again, more and more I'm dealing with emotional issues. Almost everyone I now help, most have these unresolved emotional traumas that even they say, oh, it doesn't bug me anymore. And then talking a little longer, you can tell it really does still. So you got to sit with the uncomfortable feelings. And then if you can learn to sit with your emotions and then not judge yourself like, oh, I'm so stupid, or nobody likes me, or whatever you're programming, you sit with them, and then you can gradually let them go. Like, I can let go of this person did this, but they taught me this good thing, or maybe I remember that one time they were nice, because we got to let go of them. So good question. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a contact as Cynthia and myself and Pascal had met this person who he had a Rife machine. He invested like $60,000 in this thing, and he gave us like a quick tour of it, and it was an interesting idea. And he was at the time a practitioner. I didn't get a chance to use it as a client, but I found it just fascinating to see one actually real. And basically, you lie down on the thing, and he had a meter that would measure the different frequencies in the core chakra points was a big element of that, and based upon different metrics that would be picked up in this very subtle electromagnetic receptor, and I don't know all of the science behind it, but it made a certain amount of sense based on what I did know about, or what I have studied about magnetic fields, that you could both diagnose but also introduce certain subtle frequencies in various chakras that would target various ailments regarding liver issues, arthritis, whatever. And there was a big manual that had been built up by practitioners and accumulated over the course of decades, that he showed us, which in alphabetical order had all the different frequencies, all the different ailments and various frequencies as it was related to various chakras that would be conducive to healing. Although again, it's a bit of a frontier thing, not quite a science yet. It's still kind of intuitive, and thus there's also a lot of snake oil in it. A lot of It's a bit difficult when you're in this realm, right? Talking about the stuff that's so outside of the standard model that. But it's there. There's something really there that works.
It is. This is I have my Rife machine right beside my computer. It's like a mini, but you hold on to these. I don't know if they're copper, so it's all these filaments are quite expensive, and when they light up with the charge, and you have that by your skin, and then you have foot pads. You circulate the frequency, and so I have people set up watching a video while they do this like from my computer. So that's mine. I can't show you the other part, but it's just a small box. that plugs into your computer.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I mean, but the future of healing really opens it up, like sound healing. You know, we know about how they used to have those beautiful organs and bells in towns. You know, resonance is something very powerful and interesting. And so, can you affect your own health and resonance as a human being? So it's for the better, because right, we get the food brings us down, the emotional toxins, the negative thinking patterns and programming, fear, ego, I must win, you know, scarcity, I have to win, you know, all that stuff brings us down, affects our life force or whatever you want to use, our energetic output as well. So it is really all connected. And when you start taking a look at yourself, you realize, wow, this is my programming, right? And you just have to be more self-aware, and then you can't be mean to yourself either. You're gonna have to be like a good coach, like, wow, you really screwed up there, you know, bucko. That was a big miss. And playful is so important. Even my son, a quick story about my oldest, I'm pretty determined. And then when I ran for PPC, I didn't realize how much hate I would get. I literally was like hated by lots of people, and even people who saw me as the wonderful detox coach. Once I said I'm stepping in politically, they're like, bitch, they weren't like that, but they didn't like it. You could tell. And even now, some of the people I know in the freedom movement, they're like, I don't believe in any of that politics stuff. And all of a sudden you've lost your credibility. I'm like, come on, man, we gotta step into the world, whether you believe they're all crap or we're going to have a quantum system where you vote or whatever you believe. For some reason, that really got to people, and it got to my sons because unfortunately the parents all saw me as a right-wing, fascist, racist, whatever ever labels you want to put on it, even though I was a holistic detox coach. And it really got me in the beginning, but I never stopped. And my sons, I would play with it. They're like, everybody hates you. And I'm like, well, the cats don't, so I'm in good spot. I'd play with whatever the negativity was. And now my kids are kind of, I'm not going to say that they've totally accepted it. And my oldest is actually kind of interested in what I'm doing now. And I'm teaching them about standing in your convictions. So, it's good to be mindful of that in everything you do, because you might not get any support or limited support. So you have to be your own biggest supporter, but in an objective way where you're always trying to grow too, which is tough to do. Know thyself, right?
Know thyself. That's the key. And yeah, not taking yourself too seriously either. And a lot of people they can't understand it because a lot of people are looking at you trying to, and they're kind of projecting, I think, some of their own
insecurities,
outward. And if they could see you being a consistent person through turmoil and troubles, as their time comes to finally face that subjective crisis, they'll have a reference point that, okay, Tish was consistent. She's seemingly happy despite this very, very abysmal set of facts that are depressing, but yet she's somehow happy and playful. So it's a good thing for people to just know that that's possible, so that it's not, they have the courage to go there and really go to the electric fence and jump over it. It's not something to run away from. It's happier to jump over the electric fence, even if it's a little bit painful to climb over the thing. It zaps you a bit.
Yeah. It's so true. And it doesn't have to be a political goal, but a lot of people I find give up too soon too. So we're in this spiritual process we're in. So I've always been results oriented, right? Got to get there, and a top A student and like achiever. And I've learned to let go of that a little bit as well. So it's not about, my result, it's the application. So it's the journey that counts. So, we don't know about the result, but if we're sort of milking every second of every day for every lesson and every positive thing and living in this gratitude, it's amazing what will happen to us and to people around us as well. So, I've learned not to totally let go of what people think of me, and but also do good. It's like that great in my book. it's a good time to talk about this because I really feel I'm living this now. I did just write it as in my book, but you have your great memory, Matt, but I always have to refer to things. So, the If poem. You know that If, do you know the If poem by Rudyard Kipling?
Rudyard Kipling, yes.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Oh, you want me to read? Okay. So this is really important. It resonates with me anyways. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Now I remember that. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream but not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves and to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and scoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on a turn of pitch and toss, and love and start over at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings and not lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but not too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Get that last part. You'll be a politician, my dear. You'll be a future leader. Anyways, I just like that. It fit well with my journey, and so I put it in the beginning of my book. I thought it was a good one. He may be an asshole, Rudyard Kipling. Is he one of the bad ones? I'm just thinking that. Oh no, don't tell me he's one of those bad guys. Is he? Probably.
Oh, sure. But that being said, life is more complex sometimes than pure black and white. And what he did there, that's wisdom. We can go with that.
It was good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good.
I can work with that. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that was actually very nice. Thank you. And I know Kelly's been waiting for a while. Kelly, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hi Tish. Yeah, what was your original question for us? What happened? What changed my emotional well-being? One of the biggest things that I remember doing was getting rid of my television set.
Mm-hmm. Good
And like that, of all the things, I think I was addicted to sitting in front of the TV and just, coming home from work, watching just those stupid shows on TV and everything, and the commercials, and it's just going in your head. And so I got rid of that, and then so many other things followed. I spent more time reading, more time outside, socializing, just so many things, just from that one, getting rid of the mass media.
Well, that's really important, and they do put that on you. It is one of the things they do. It's to numb us. So, entertainment, it gets you distracted from yourself, from dealing with yourself, and then facing life, and then enjoying living fully in life. So, I think that's a great tip: is to either don't watch TV much or get rid of it. Lots of people have. And your life will improve when you actually, connect with other people, and you'll be happier for sure. That's a great story. Thank you.
I have another little question. That's a foodie thing. I try to eat organic and, I have a little garden and stuff like that. Um, I like using, I don't know if you do this, lemon peels, using lemon peels for cooking.
Oh yeah, it's very good for you.
But
All the
like,
peels are very good and natural and anti-parasitic. Very good.
yeah,
And
that I feel
yeah.
it's like that. But my problem is, like I'm here in Canada and I don't know where all these lemons come from, but don't they like spray all that stuff and doesn't that get into the peel?
Well, you can buy organic
Yeah, I guess
lemons.
so.
Yeah, you have to be mindful of the numbers and if they're putting this appeal spray on, this really toxic spray. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of really bad stuff out there. Yeah, I did invest early on when I was like freaked out. When I just woken up, it was like everything I do, it was like download one day, bang. And I invested in a freeze dryer, so I freeze dried a whole bunch of lemons, thinking we won't have any lemons, but it's fine. But I have them in a Mylar bag, so you can just rehydrate them anytime. But yeah, I mean, lemons are a powerhouse. I think everyone should always have lemons. It's great for detoxifying your liver, all these things. Oh, a tip, if anyone has pets, please do not give them temptations if you have cats. My cats were like my best friends for a while, my only friends for a short time. And my oldest was gonna, like they said, he was gonna kick the bucket any time of kidney failure. But once I woke up, I realized the glyphosate in those treats, they can't handle them. Like don't buy any treats. Temptations are awful. You can get natural ones that are much better. And there's actually detox formulas you can buy for animals. And I've completely cured my oldest cat of any kidney diseases. So you can reverse this stuff. And that's in yourself too. Cranberry and all that stuff. So for pets, don't give them any jabs of any kind and change their food so you're not putting any wheat in their food at all. And I do recommend limiting your wheat as a human being as well. In most countries, I don't know about Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic or anywhere, but Canada's awful.
yeah. I like making. I make bread and stuff like that.
It's
You
good.
know, uh, the
Um,
like the sourdough kind of yeasts,
yeah,
and but yeah, like it's hard to get
yeah,
decent wheat. I try and get them from
you
the
can get.
local farmers market and stuff like that.
That's good. Farmers and organic. Someone asked me in the chat about kidney disease, and one of the best authors, he's incredible. He's written a book on how you can reverse. I don't have it in this room, but I have so many books, health books, everything. But this author, if I don't know if this one is making it, but his name is Andreas Moritz. And he wrote a book on how you can cure or solve kidney issues. You can do real good kidney liver detox. But this one book, Health and Rejuvenation, Timeless Secrets, the author of The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush. So Andreas and then Moritz. I got a bunch of his books. Breakthrough Medicine for the 21st Century. So, we do learn that we can be healed by food, by exercise, by sauna, by frequencies, by sound. You can be healed by touch. It's certainly someone, when you've been around someone who really loves you and accepts you, you just feel great. Versus that person who's judging you, and you can feel when you're just, they're going to judge you everything you do. So there's lots of ways we can heal. And we can actually, I forget his name now. Sylvan. Oh, he was in a Mexican, You the Healer. Let me see if I can find that book. If I can't, I can send it. But Jose Silva, he developed a system. He was a radio engineer, Matt, so very technical guy. And he found the ability to, like, his kids were like mediocre students, this whole system, and I think it's called the Silva's mind system, where he would get these incredible healing results. And then he started getting people's memories improving, academic results. I have a couple of his books as well. It's worth checking out. It's incredible to see, what your mind is capable of when you can program it yourself in terms of directing your own healing. For example, he would teach people to imagine like whatever the problem they have, and so go into their body and see the issue, whether it's your kidneys shutting down or whatever, chronic asthma, or you'd go into the lungs, and then work in your mind through visualization techniques to literally lift it out of your body. So that's what he taught, and he had huge success. And he stopped working, and then he ended up giving courses all over the world. And this was like in the 80s, I think. So it's been many decades. I'm not sure if he's alive still, but his books are timeless. I have them, but I just don't know where they are. So those are different things to check out. So it's like your physical health, and then just the power of the mind, and integrating your emotions and your heart center, your heart chakra. A lot of people don't live in their hearts, they live in their heads. So to be fully, to be the best you can be, you really need to engage the brain and the heart. And then you can really step into incredible things.
Yeah, that's I think it's given a lot of lip service, but what you've just said has been still treated as an unscientific. Like if you want to be a new agey hippie and be all mystical, you're allowed to have those opinions. But if you want to be a respected scientist, you would never dream of speaking in that manner publicly. But the fact is, there is a direct connection between your stress, your health, your emotional health, and your physical attributes. There's a both in terms of the mental circuitry. The Gestalt psychologist, the first generation Gestalt psychologists were looking at that as well, as far as the, what do they call it, the psychophysical parallelism. They had this terminology, but I mean, it's really just the thoughts you have a certain correlation in the physical makeup of your body, your brain, that will have certain effects upon the magnetic field and other things that are tied to balancing out the chemical and cellular dynamics within your body, within your organs. So, and yeah, I mean, there's a whole realm of thinking here that we're just scratching on, and it's really exciting to think how many breakthroughs are going to be made if we could just get over the shackles of the standard model medical science that we're told we have to like live inside of if we want to be respected. It's astounding.
Yeah, I mean, even things like epigenetics, it's pretty new. We can actually change our DNAs even through thinking, right? Through eating, thinking. Doesn't have to be passed down, but traumas are passed down generationally until they're resolved. So you're coming to terms with your emotional shit is actually good for not just you, but your whole family, apparently, and your siblings in your future. So it is very interesting, and they're starting to measure things scientifically in these advanced fields. Like, I'm not a new agey type. I'm like to, I mean, but I like to stick to things that I can tell, I know, are very significant. So, but anyways, yeah. Anyone else or?
Yeah, there's a question from Susan and Doris, aka Mom and Grandma. Hey.
Got it. Okay. For one thing, it's your birthday and we get the birthday gift. Thank you for this amazing presentation.
Oh, my pleasure.
So that's number one. Number two, thanks for the tips on the minerals and vitamins, PM and AM. Never knew that one, or I skipped through it. Quick question, distilled reverse osmosis water that I buy. So I go to the store, like there's a store where you can buy and fill up your own bottles. Is that good, or?
This is a really good topic. I do touch on it in my book as well, because I do a lot on water, but if the best option out there is it has some minerals. So structured water,
Right.
alkaline water, because our foods are quite acidic. Most people's diets are. It's expensive though. So if you can't get alkaline system, not everyone loves Kang, and there's also structured water systems. You can get your whole house done. So with buffers.
We're tenants in
But,
an apartment, so.
anything is better. I ended up getting, so I have a very complex system because I have a spout that does reverse osmosis and a system under my sink. But then to that, I added an alkaline system. I did buy the one, it wasn't quite as expensive through Dr. Robert O. Young. I'm not recommending it because the filters are really expensive, but I did add an alkaline system. And then I also have, in case the water goes down, I have jugs delivered, spring water for my kids because they're mineralized. And I think we can't get so caught up in toxins. We have a good system to remove them. Spring water has, much better profile for, they've removed the glyphosate. So, and it still has some minerals. I am a big fan of minerals. We need minerals.
Okay.
And we don't get enough. Yeah.
We've been adding them as a teaspoon of
salt.
The Himalayan salt.
Perfect.
Yeah, I've got the Celtic and the Himalayan.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. And that's all you need is Celtic salt. That's a tip with Himalayan is the best for minerals. And I wouldn't buy iodized salt ever.
No, we
Some
don't.
people
We haven't.
Say it's glass in it, and I wouldn't even put it past them to put glass in it. I mean, you never know, right?
Right.
But still, Himalayan and Celtic, you need those.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of salt. Like, unless you have some significant issue, they keep, don't eat salt. And then they load you up with sugar. The big enemy is sugar. And they put that in everything, along with these omega-6 processed seed oils.
Okay.
I'm not even a big fan of soy personally.
We don't do soy, and we stopped with any of the processed oils. So we use coconut oil.
Oh, excellent. And I love avocado oil, and I buy that, and it's so good for you. My son had a slight neurological issue now. I believe it was from one PCR test personally.
Okay.
But I was using avocado oil as much as possible to heal him. He doesn't believe anything I do, so he thinks I'm nuts, but I give him, a melatonin as well. So melatonin is actually quite good for sleeping and helps with brain function. So I am a fan of melatonin. I take 5-HTP melatonin, helps me sleep. I have an active brain. And so I don't know, it helps me with my sleep cycle. Some people don't create serotonin as well as others. So they could say they're prone to depression, but once you give them a ability, or foods that help to create more serotonin, it's lifted. So they don't need all these antidepressants and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, that sounds really good for water. You're doing great.
Okay. And the last thing was, you mentioned a drug. You had mentioned ivermectin, and then you said a new one that has some promise.
Yeah, so I mean,
what is it?
It's called fenbendazole. I'll send it to Matt. It's also an antiparasitic. In fact, if you Google fenbendazole and cancer, unbelievable scientific studies how late-stage cancer has been cured by fenbendazole. Now, this is really out there. So I like to entertain, to keep my mind the spectrum of opinions on a lot of topics. Like, I interviewed a lady who doesn't believe, who believes everything is parasitic, like that there's no virus, it's all fungal, bacterial, or parasitic, or toxins like heavy metals. So there's no such thing as a virus. But then I've interviewed other people say, oh, no, it's definite. I interviewed Dr. Merrick, the died suddenly doctor, and he's like, no, he's been a cancer expert. He actually, with isotopes, was curing cancer in Alberta, and people who were told, that's it, I can't do anything for you. And this is like a few years ago. And go to his facility in Alberta, and then 4 doses of these 4 things later, and there's no side effects of radiation because they target only the cancer. So this is a scientific breakthrough that was curing people of cancer as well. And then guess what they did in Canada? They shut him down. Paid him $500,000 his salary, but they shut him down. And then now they've built a state-of-the-art facility in BC. They want to charge elites will come and pay 100,000, be cured of any cancer with 4 treatments.
Yeah.
So he says the medical isotopes is another huge, there's so many areas. We
Yeah,
don't really need to have cancer, you know, all these things.
Mm.
So, but fenbendazole you can still buy online. I think it's called the Fenben store.
Oh, okay. Fen store.
I can, if Matthew reminds me, I can send
Okay.
it. So, but yeah, I mean, use at your own risk, like everything.
Like everything else. Yeah. That's
But
it.
the difference between ivermectin and fenbendazole, since you've asked,
Mhm.
because I have had people who believe there's something in their brain. Now, I've seen people, and now this is sad. So I think there is something parasitic that they're doing.
Yeah.
It works with their kind of satanic evil too,
Yeah.
the whole thing. But people have developed these brain cysts, they're calling them, and I'm
Okay.
concerned it's something else, these
Yeah.
sacs. But fenbendazole does cross the blood-brain barrier.
There we go. Okay.
So it's being used to treat brain issues. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, and I wouldn't ever prescribe it. But a lot of I know people who've taken it, and I have some as well.
Okay.
I did a few rounds of it to try to just do an anti-parasitic protocol myself. I think people in the past, so farmers, for example, who knew they would treat their animals with fenbendazole, then would then just treat their kids because it was normal for common sense farmers to treat their family as well, like once a month, give a dose. We
Right.
stopped doing that in a lot of countries because we think, oh, we're a clean country. But yeah, actually, people could, even through garlic and other things, they should do parasite cleanses on a regular basis. Like, yeah. So you can look into fenbendazole, and I'll send that to Matthew.
Yeah, it's more the where to source the stuff, because it's like Google, forget about finding anything.
Yeah, you can buy
Ivermectin, we
it.
were able to get some, but we paid like $500 to get
Yeah, it's
the
not
ivermectin.
expensive.
Yeah. It's so expensive and hard to get.
Fenbendazole is much easier to get.
Right.
And still, at least I think it is. I got a whole bunch just because I like to have my coffee.
Yeah, I have the medicine cabinet.
Yeah. And it wasn't expensive. Wasn't that bad.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for our gift.
Oh, my pleasure. I have 10 more minutes, then I have to do a hard stop.
No, I think that this actually rounds it out very nicely, Tish. We ran through all the questions, and you did a wonderful job. I really do appreciate this gift. We all do, and we're going to be putting this obviously on Rumble, not our typical YouTube thing for obvious reasons. It's going to be a Canadian Patriot lecture after all. But I encourage people to really share this and, read your book, go online, go to Amazon, hold your nose, go into the Amazon world just to pick the thing up. There you go. The Thrive Protocol and the ABCs. What's the other one? I forgot the name all of a sudden. ABCs of food.
Yes. And this one is like a self-improvement or it gives you lots of exercises to do, self-reflection, and then so this is, if you're only going to get one, I think this one would serve you better in this time for stepping into resilient action and living your best life. And I do believe this, once you overcome your fear, you can step into your best life. So fear is the virus. Because what's the worst case scenario, right? If you screw up or go bankrupt, whatever it is, there's always something else if you look at it as an adventure in life.
Well, thank you, Tish, and thank you, everyone, for these words of wisdom, for taking the time on the Sunday afternoon to learn something new. And let's take this all to heart and really, really shift gears mentally and focus on our mind over matter. Let's mind things that we've been ignoring and put this into work in our everyday lives as we're participating in this broader fight for humanity. So thank you.
And I have one exercise for people. So with your own self-coaching, just notice when you're being emotionally triggered. That's a starting point, when you can notice. You building up these, and then once you're observing it, then you can start to go, what's that coming from? And what's the deeper emotional thing the message being sent to you of something that needs to be processed? So eventually, as you work through all your triggers, you don't get triggered as much either. So that's an exercise. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. you.